my name's Jonathan, and I'm going to be guiding you through a series of videos meant to help you when it comes to writing your papers. For a lot of young students, they don't know exactly where to start when it comes towards a paper. So what we're going to do in this particular video and in subsequent videos is to set up a great way to brainstorm and organize your thoughts before you start writing your paper. So forgiveness from everyone, I am not the best artist in the world, but I've come up with a design that I think works for a lot of different people. So this is a modification of something that I was taught by my freshman composition teacher, and I've expanded it and worked on it over the years to where it sort of makes sense for a lot of people. If it doesn't work for you, there are other ways we can go about doing this, and we'll go over those in videos to come. But essentially it starts off, and again, not an artist, it starts off with an upside down triangle. Then we have our middle section, the sort of stick here, with 1, 2, 3 lines in it. And then we're going to finish with a triangle that's right side up, like a pyramid. So, again, as you can see, I'm a beautiful artist, but I think that's what really speaks to this whole procedure, is that you don't have to be perfect at any one thing to make this work. So if we're labeling these, this upside down triangle right here is going to represent our introduction. Then this middle part right here is going to represent the body of our paper, or where most of your details that prove your point are going to be, or support your point, depending on what type of paper that you'll be writing, but we'll go over that as well in a different video. Finally, our pyramid down here, the right side up facing triangle, is going to be our conclusion. So we have an introduction, the body of our paper, and our conclusion. So, what are some of the things that make up these sections? Well, in an introduction, you need to start with your first sentence. And as you can notice, we're going from very broad to very specific. So, as you're writing or planning your paper, you want to go from a more global aspect or a much wider way of looking at the topic to a very specific statement about the topic, which is going to be your thesis sentence. So your opener or some people call it a hook, a lot of people do, is meant to grab your audience. And we'll get into more detail in that in the next video, where we talk specifically about introductions. In the middle section of your introduction, you're going to want to have some specific details. Nothing too major here, because most of your detail is going to come in the body. But you're going to need to continue to give some background information to make your hook and your thesis statement, which is going to be the most specific point. So most people will tell you that your thesis statement should occur in the final sentence of your introduction. So we're going to put thesis statement right there. And again, in the next video, we're going to go specifically into what makes up a competent thesis statement, because lots of people have different versions of what makes a good thesis statement. But we have a better idea of what most teachers, professors, instructors are looking for when we talk about something being competent. All right, so in our body, we're assuming this is the design of a 5-paragraph essay. So at the community college, I've seen that the 5-paragraph model is a lot of what you're supposed to start with. You can modify this for just about any kind of paper, but let's assume we're writing a 5-paragraph essay. So paragraph 1 is obviously going to be your introduction. Paragraph 2 will be one of the main points that you're trying to get across in your paper. So it's a way of proving a point, it's a way of reinforcing a belief that you have. Lots and lots and lots of different ways you can go about this depending on what type of paper that you're writing. But your paragraph 2 is also going to be your detail number 1, or background number 1, or proof number 1. So we've got paragraph 3, paragraph 4, and again, you want detail number 2 and detail number 3. So, for example, just to give you a quick example, if I was going to compare, I don't know, I'm trying to think of something generic. Let's say I was going to compare Pepsi and Coke. All right, so I don't know how many of you are aware of this, but one thing that you may want to discuss is where they came from. Pepsi comes from North Carolina, whereas Coca-Cola comes from Atlanta. So location where it was invented might be one difference that you were looking to explore. Whether they use real sugar or corn syrup might be your second point. And say overall global sales, how much does each company sell across the world in a given year, might be your third detail, your third point of comparison. So that's a quick and dirty way of looking at it, but it was the simplest that I could think of right off the bat. So when it comes to our conclusion, and this is something that a lot of people either for whatever reason don't get taught or don't fully observe, but your introduction and your conclusion are essentially mirror images of each other. Your conclusion should basically be your introduction flipped upside down. So the first thing that's going to happen in your conclusion is you are going to reword your thesis statement. All right, so you're going to take the sentence that you did up here, your final sentence in your introduction, and you're going to reword it, reorganize it a little bit so that it's not identical to the original thesis statement, but that it gives the same point. It gets the same point across. So a reworded thesis statement should begin your conclusion. Then you should walk us out of the paper. So when someone reads a paper, you're inviting them into your headspace for a little while. So we want to get them attracted to the idea of reading the paper, get them comfortable with what you're going to be writing about, and then of course hit them with your main message. We're going to remind them of your message here with a reworded thesis statement, and then again give some more pertinent details before finally ending on your closer, which is sort of a variation of your hook or your opener. It's essentially meant to give a more global or an every person kind of context to your idea. So without introducing any new material that you haven't talked about already, you might say something to the extent, let's go back to the Pepsi and Coke metaphor. So if my opening statement would be something like, people all over the world enjoy a bubbly, sugary beverage of some type or another, then I might use as my closer, no matter what culture you grew up in, carbonated sweetened beverages are likely a part of your life, or something to that extent. Obviously, if I was sitting down, I would make it a little bit more snazzy, but your closer should sort of release your audience back into the real world. So it should give context to what you're talking about in a more global perspective. All right, so we have our upside down triangle for our introduction, where we start broad and then progressively get more detailed until we have our thesis statement. Each one of these little hash marks represents one of your body paragraphs, which will have supporting detail that backs up your thesis statement. And then finally, in our conclusion, our pyramid shape, we're going to reword our thesis statement. We're going to take what we already wrote and change up the language, but not the message. Then we're going to give some more details before finally leaving them with a more global message. All right? So this, at the very end of the day, this simple little design is a great way to help you plan out how you might organize your paper. Think of it as sort of a cheat sheet or a roadmap to how you would like your paper to look. Organizing and doing things like this have a way of making sure that your paper has flow, it makes sense, and your different ideas go together. So keep this in mind the next time that you have to write a paper, especially a 5-paragraph one. But like I said, if it's more, then you simply subdivide or add more of these little lines in here. In the next few videos that we're going to release, I'm going to break down each section, and then we're going to fictionally create a real life version of one of these. So be sure to check in to future videos to understand even more of how planning can aid you.